Hello again. This is day 15 of our Reading Through the Bible Together in a Year series. Today we're covering Genesis chapters 46, starting in verse 8 through chapter 48. Now, where we are so far is that Joseph and his brothers have finally reconciled, and Joseph's father Israel is going to come to Egypt and live in the land of Goshen. So let's see how that pans out. And these are the names of the children of Israel who came into Egypt, even Yaakov and all his sons, Reuven, Yaakov's oldest son. And the sons of Reuven, Hanoch and Palu and Hezron and Carmi. And the sons of Shimon, Yemuel and Yamin and Ohad and Yachin and Zohar and Shaul, the son of a woman of Canaan. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath and Merari. And the sons of Yehuda, and Onan and Shelah and Perez and Zerah. But and Onan had come to their death in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. And the sons of Yisachar, Tola and Puah, and Job and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sered and Elon and Yachleel. All these together with his daughter Dinah were the children of Leah, whom Yaakov had by her in Padan Aram. They were 33 in number. And the sons of Gad, Ziphion and Chagi, Shuni and Etzbon, Eri and Erodi, and Eli. And the sons of Asher, Yimna and Yishva and Yishvi, and Bariah, and Sarach their sister. And the sons of Bariah, Heber and Malkiel. These are the children of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to his daughter Leah, and Yaakov had these 16 children by her. The sons of Yaakov's wife Rachel, Yosef and Benjamin. And Yosef had Manasseh and Ephraim in the land of Egypt by Atznath, the daughter of Potipherah, priest of On. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela and Becher, and Ashbel, Gera and Naaman, Echi and Rosh, Mupim and Chupim and Arde. All these were the children of Rachel, whom Yaakov had by her, 14 persons. And the son of Dan was Chushim, and the sons of Naphtali, Yachzeel, and Guni, and Yetzer, and Shelem. These were the children of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to his daughter Rachel, 7 persons. All the persons who came with Yaakov into Egypt, the offspring of his body, were 66, without taking into account the wives of Yaakov's sons. And the sons of Yosef, whom he had in Egypt, were 2. 70 persons of the family of Yaakov came into Egypt. Now he had sent Yehuda before him to Goshen, to get word from Yosef, and so they came to the land of Goshen. And Yosef got his carriage ready, and went to Goshen for the meeting with his father. And when he came before him, he put his arms round his neck, weeping. And Yisrael said to Yosef, Now that I have seen you living again, I am ready for death. And Yosef said to his brothers and to his father's people, I will go and give the news to Pharaoh, and say to him, My brothers and my father's people from the land of Canaan have come to me, and these men are keepers of sheep and owners of cattle, and have with them their flocks and their herds and all they have. Now when Pharaoh sends for you and says, What is your business? You are to say, Your servants have been keepers of cattle from our early days up till now, like our fathers. In this way you will be able to have the land of Goshen for yourselves, because keepers of sheep are unclean in the eyes of Egyptians. Then Yosef went to Pharaoh and said, My father and my brothers with their flocks and their herds and all they have are come from Canaan, and are now in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 of his brothers to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said to them, What is your business? And they said, Your servants are keepers of sheep, as our fathers were before us. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to make a living in this land, because we have no grass for our flocks in the land of Canaan. So now let your servants make a place for themselves in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh said to Yosef, Let them have the land of Goshen, and if there are any able men among them, put them over my cattle. And Yaakov and his sons came to Yosef in Egypt, and when word of it came to the ears of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, he said to Yosef, Your father and brothers have come to you, all the land of Egypt is before you. Let your father and your brothers have the best of the land for their resting place. Then Yosef made his father Yaakov come before Pharaoh, and Yaakov gave him his blessing. And Pharaoh said to him, How old are you? And Yaakov said, The years of my wanderings have been 130. Small in number and full of sorrow have been the years of my life, and less than the years of the wanderings of my fathers. And Yaakov gave Pharaoh his blessing, and went out from before him. And Yosef made a place for his father and his brothers, and gave them a heritage in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had given orders. And Yosef took care of his father and his brothers and all his father's people, giving them food for the needs of their families. Now there was no food to be had in all the land, so that all Egypt and Canaan were wasted from the need of food. And all the money in Egypt and in the land of Canaan which had been given for grain came into the hands of Yosef, and he put it in Pharaoh's house. And when all the money in Egypt and Canaan was gone, the Egyptians came to Yosef and said, "Give us bread. Would you have us come to destruction before your eyes? For we have no more money." And Yosef said, "Give me your cattle. I will give you grain in exchange for your cattle, if your money is all gone." So they took their cattle to Yosef, and he gave them bread in exchange for their horses, and flocks, and herds, and donkeys. So all that year he gave them food in exchange for their cattle. And when that year was ended, they came to him in the second year, and said, "We may not keep it from our lord's knowledge that all our money is gone, and all the herds of cattle are my lord's. There is nothing more to give, my lord, but our bodies and our land. Are we to come to destruction before your eyes, we and our land? Take us and our land and give us bread, and we and our land will be servants to Pharaoh, and give us seed so that we may have life, and the land may not become waste." So Yosef got all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh, for every Egyptian gave up his land in exchange for food because of their great need. So all the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he made servants of them, town by town, from one end of Egypt to the other. Only he did not take the land of the priests, for the priests had their food given them by Pharaoh, and having what Pharaoh gave them, they had no need to give up their land. Then Joseph said to the people, "I have made you in your land this day the property of Pharaoh. Here is seed for you to put in your fields, and when the grain is cut, you are to give a fifth part to Pharaoh, and 4 parts will be yours for seed and food, and for your families and your little ones." And they said to him, "Truly you have kept us from death. May we have grace in your eyes, and we will be Pharaoh's servants." Then Joseph made a law, which is in force to this day, that Pharaoh was to have the 5th part. Only the land of the priests did not become his. And so Yisrael was living among the Egyptians in the land of Goshen, and they got property there and became very great in numbers and in wealth. And Yaakov was living in the land of Goshen for 17 years, so the years of his life were 147. And the time of his death came near, and he sent for his son Yosef, and said to him, "If now I am dear to you, put your hand under my leg, and take an oath that you will not put me to rest in Egypt. But when I go to my fathers, you are to take me out of Egypt, and put me to rest in their last resting place." And he said, "I will do so." And he said, "Take an oath to me." And he took an oath to him, and Yisrael gave worship on the bed's head. Now after these things word came to Yosef that his father was ill, and he took with him his sons Manasseh and Ephraim. And when they said to Yaakov, "Your son Yosef is coming to see you," then Yisrael, getting all his strength together, had himself lifted up in his bed. And Yaakov said to Yosef, "God, the ruler of all, came to me in a vision at Luz in the land of Canaan, and gave me his blessing, and said to me, 'Truly I will make you fertile and give you increase, and I will make of you a great family of nations. And I will give this land to your seed after you to be their heritage forever.' And now your 2 sons who came to birth in Egypt before I came to you here are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh will be mine in the same way as Reuven and Shimon are. And any other offspring which you have after them will be yours, and will be named after their brothers and their heritage. And as for me, when I came from Padan, death overtook Rachel on the way, when we were still some distance from Ephrath, and I put her to rest there on the road to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. Then Yisrael, looking at Yosef's sons, said, 'Who are these?' And Yosef said to his father, 'They are my sons, whom God has given me in the land.' And he said, 'Let them come near me, and I will give them a blessing.' Now because Yisrael was old, his eyes were no longer clear, and he was not able to see. So he made them come near him, and gave them a kiss, folding them in his arms. And Yisrael said to Yosef, 'I had no hope of seeing your face again, but God in his mercy has let me see you and your children.' Then Yosef took them from between his knees, and went down on his face to the earth. Then taking Ephraim with his right hand, Yosef put him at Yisrael's left side, and with his left hand he put Manasseh at Israel's right side, placing them near him. And Yisrael, stretching out his right hand, put it on the head of Ephraim the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands on purpose, for Manasseh was older. And he gave Yosef a blessing, saying, "May the God to whom my fathers, Abraham and Yitzhak, gave worship, the God who has taken care of me all my life till this day, the angel who has been my Savior from all evil, send his blessing on these children, and let my name and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Yitzhak, be given to them, and let them become a great nation on the earth." Now when Yosef saw that his father had put his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it did not seem right to him. And lifting his father's hand, he would have put it on the head of Manasseh. And Yosef said to his father, "Not so, my father, for this is the older. Put your right hand on his head." But his father would not, saying, "I am doing it on purpose, my son. He will certainly become a nation and a great one, but his younger brother will be greater than he, and his seed will become a great family of nations." So he gave them his blessing that day, saying, "You will be the sign of a blessing in Israel, for they will say, 'May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh.' And he put Ephraim before Manasseh. Then Yisrael said to Yosef, "Now my death is near, but God will be with you, guiding you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given you more than your brothers, even Shechem as your heritage, which I took from the Amorites with my sword and my bow." So two things I would like to draw your attention to from today's reading. The first being that Jacob does not want to be buried in Egypt, and he wants to be buried in the land of Canaan. He asks Joseph to do this, and Joseph says, "Yes, I'll bury you in Canaan." However, Jacob asks for an oath, a second confirmation that Joseph will do that. Why do we think that is? I would make the assumption that Joseph's loyalty is to Pharaoh as much as it is to Jacob, and I think Jacob sees that. Pharaoh is the one who adopts Joseph, gives him status, gives him power, gives him a wife and a family. So it would not be that surprising that if after Jacob dies and Pharaoh says, "Don't bury him in Canaan, just bury him here," that Joseph may succumb to that loyalty. And the second thing that I'd like you to draw your attention to is that when Jacob wants to give a blessing to Joseph's son Ephraim and Manasseh, Manasseh is the oldest. However, Jacob is giving the firstborn blessing to Ephraim. And that's kind of surprising, except that's how we've seen it almost at every point through this story. Abraham is not the firstborn, but gets the blessing. His son Isaac is the secondborn, right? Secondborn to Ishmael, and Isaac gets the blessing. Jacob and Esau, right? Jacob is the secondborn, but gets the blessing and the heritage. And so now I think Jacob's just carrying on that legacy, and it could just be that God is continuing on that usurping of man's expectations that the firstborn should be in control, right? God is always just like, your perspective of reality, your expectation that the firstborn is more important than the rest of the family. I'm gonna undermine that a little bit. I'm gonna take your secondborn. I'm gonna take your lastborn, and I'm gonna put him in charge of everybody. Joseph himself, right? Joseph is the one who becomes the inheritor of God's blessing at the whole, right? He becomes the prince of Egypt. He gets risen to the top, and he's in control of everything. And so God always seems to be usurping what mankind thinks is supposed to be the way of right. So I hope you think about that as you have a wonderful day.